Ever noticed how the toughest-looking people often carry the heaviest secrets? That's kind of how it was with Simone Biles. On the outside, the American gymnast's life looked perfect. 25 medals, 4 Olympic golds, signature moves are named after her. She didn't just win, she reshaped gymnastics every time she landed. But behind the lights, when the arena fell silent, Simone's life after the applause isn't about wild parties or drama. It was about control, or the fear of losing it. During competition season, she'd be up before sunrise. No scrolling on social media, no notifications. Just silence, stretching, and a kind of solitude that looked like focus, but was really survival. Her teammates admired her discipline. But in truth, it was anxiety in disguise, a ritual that kept her grounded. In Tokyo, the pressure wasn't just mental. Her body started fighting back. She described it later as the twisties, a split second where your brain loses track of your body mid-air. When you're flipping above a beam barely wider than your foot, that's not a small thing. "It's honestly petrifying," she said. "You have no idea where you are in the air." I don't understand how I landed on my feet. But even that wasn't the full story. Years before, Simone had survived trauma under USA Gymnastics, a chapter she rarely talks about. She carried that silence into every performance, smiling on camera, crying in hotel rooms. When she finally stepped back during the Olympics, it wasn't a breakdown. It was a boundary. "I say put mental health first," she said, "because if you don't, you're not going to enjoy your sport, and you're not going to succeed as much as you want." Most assumed she was just taking a break. In reality, she was rebuilding. Therapy between workouts, slowly learning to trust her own body again, and discovering that true strength doesn't always mean pushing through. Sometimes it means stepping back. If Simone reminded us that even superheroes can get tired, Naomi Osaka showed us that silence can sometimes speak louder than standing ovations. Naomi was easy to admire, soft-spoken, gracious, someone who smiled through pressers and never courted fame. But beneath that calm exterior was a storm, not of rivalry, but of thought. Before matches, she'd isolate with headphones, not to lock in, but to hide. Crowds and cameras didn't excite her. They overwhelmed her. One wave of panic could undo everything. Even after her first Grand Slam, she confessed it didn't feel real. "I remember thinking I should be happier, but I felt empty." That's the part the world didn't see. The pressure didn't begin when she started losing. It started the moment she started winning. Suddenly, she was everywhere. Magazine covers, endorsements. Her face became a brand. The world saw the next Serena. Naomi, meanwhile, was quietly unraveling. She skipped interviews, dodged events, and sometimes cried, even after victories. Not from loss, but disconnection. "As an athlete, strength is key to how you're perceived," she once said. "So admitting I wasn't always okay felt like failure." So when she pulled out of tournaments, people assumed it was burnout. But it wasn't just that, it was defiance. She was reclaiming her space. The public saw composure. The private Naomi, a perfectionist, a dreamer, a young woman trying to breathe in a world that won't stop watching. Some athletes run from fame, others run from fear, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, the so-called Greek freak, a giant who's still haunted by the streets that raised him. Sure, people see the dunks, the grin, the unstoppable hustle. But ask Giannis about his past, and the answer doesn't fit in any highlight reel. He didn't grow up dreaming of NBA stardom. He grew up selling sunglasses and trinkets on the streets of Athens. His family barely had enough to eat. And worse, every step outside meant risking deportation. "I didn't have papers," he said. "If they caught me, they could send my parents back to Nigeria." That fear didn't vanish with fame. Even after making it to Milwaukee, he struggled to sleep, half expecting to wake up and find it all gone. He'd send money home, sleep on the floor, miss his brothers, and cry alone. That's what fans miss, the quiet anxiety behind the charisma. The man who never truly relaxes because he knows how fragile stability can be. Off the court, Giannis still lives like someone afraid of losing everything. He doesn't wear jewelry. He drives the same car he bought when he joined the NBA. He spends time in empty gyms long after practice ends. Coco Gauff, the teenager who aged faster than her childhood could keep up. Coco Gauff was never supposed to accelerate this quickly. At 15, she wasn't just playing pros at tennis, she was beating them. Wimbledon, the US Open. Headlines screamed she was the next Serena. But when the matches ended and the crowd disappeared, she'd retreat to her hotel room and just lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering why she felt nothing. She once admitted, "For about a year, I was really depressed. I was just lost." Everyone thought she was living a dream. In truth, she was trying to remember if it was still hers. When she was younger, her dad used to say, "Pressure is a privilege." But by 16, that privilege started to feel like a prison. The expectations, the comparisons, the idea that one loss meant she'd failed the entire generation that believed in her. "I've learned to tune out the noise," she said later. "If you listen to everyone, you lose track of yourself." Some athletes hide their struggles in silence, but behind that poise is a teenager still learning who she is when the racket isn't in her hand. And sometimes, struggle hides not in silence but in service, because when life teaches you to fend for yourself, helping others becomes second nature. That's Marcus Rashford. To England, Rashford's more than a footballer. He's the young man who forced the government to listen, who fed thousands of kids during lockdown. But beneath the activism is someone who still forgets to check on himself. "Sometimes I forget to take care of myself," he said. While others laid low during COVID, Marcus built campaigns, raised millions, became hope for kids who once lived his same hunger. But even heroes burn out. After training, he'd read heartbreaking messages. Sometimes he'd just sit and cry, too drained to reply. The media loved him when he scored, but the moment his performance dipped, the backlash came. "The criticism has a tone," he said. "A tone you don't get with every footballer." And he's not wrong. Young, black, vocal. For some, that makes his mistakes louder. Off the field, he's quiet. He reads, journals. He still visits Wythenshawe, the place that shaped him. Not for publicity, but perspective. When you've been hungry before, you never really forget. That's the unspoken battle between saving others and figuring out how to save yourself. When the whole world's watching, something shifts. You stop being just a person. You become a symbol, whether you want to or not. LeBron James knows that better than anyone. He's been in the spotlight longer than some of his teammates have been alive. At 17, they dubbed him the Chosen One. Nike handed him $90 million before he'd played a single NBA minute. From that point on, the world stopped giving him room to fall. Every jump shot, every offhand comment, every late-night tweet, scrutinized like front-page news. Slip up once, and it's not just a bad day, it's national discourse. "I hear that word, pressure, all the time," he once said. "I've been getting pressure since I was 10 years old." Most people think pressure looks like cameras, press conferences, and multi-million-dollar deals. But for LeBron, it's the weight of an entire generation calling you king and expecting you to live up to it. What people rarely see is how he's managed to stay sane under that weight. He builds rituals, watches hours of game film in solitude, keeps his circle tight, very tight. And every morning, before lacing up, he writes a few lines of gratitude in a journal. To him, basketball isn't just a job, it's therapy. LeBron's had to split himself into two people. One, the public figure, CEO, activist, philanthropist, global icon. The other, a dad who just wants to flip pancakes on a quiet Sunday morning. Someone who wishes, just for a moment, he didn't have to be LeBron James. But when you've been the face of basketball for over 20 years, there's no off switch, no disappearing act. You just get better at wearing the mask, focus worn like armor, fatigue tucked behind it. Behind the cameras, the headlines, the trophies, these athletes are just people. People are trying to stay balanced in a world that only celebrates perfection. And if they've taught us anything, it's this. Strength isn't what you show the world. It's everything you carry when no one's watching.